Hello, I'm Missy MacArthur, President of the League of Women Voters in the Reading area. Thank you for being here tonight. I want to thank Blake Fisher, Viva Downtown, for being my co-moderator, and the Cascade Theatre for providing this beautiful downtown venue. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government. We never support or oppose a candidate or a political party. I want to remind everyone that today is National Voter Registration Day. Remember, your vote matters. If you're not registered, your voice won't be heard.
Hi everyone, my name is Blake Fisher. I'm the program coordinator for Viva Downtown Reading, the downtown nonprofit dedicated to social, cultural, and economic development. I'd like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight for this Reading Candidates Forum. And I'd also like to say thank you to the Shasta County Arts Council for filming this forum tonight. And you can let your friends know that we are doing this live on the Shasta County Arts YouTube page. So thank you to Shasta County Arts Council for doing this together. I'd also like to say thank you for our candidates for joining us this evening. Our format tonight, with so many candidates, means we have to move along briskly. We'll be serious about enforcing time limits. If a candidate chooses to do a flag salute, pray, or do something else, that will come off their speaking time. Yes, the League is patriotic, but the audience has come to hear the candidates. With so many candidates, the League has determined there will be probably time for 4 questions that the audience has submitted, as well as the candidates' opening and closing statements. The questions are grouped by the main theme to form the question. Don't be surprised if you don't hear the exact wording of your question.
Also, raise your hand if you have a card. We will be taking cards through the opening statements. After that, we won't be taking more cards and more questions to try and put into the new you. This is Forum Week. Forum Week for our local league. Tomorrow is District 5 Supervisor Forum and Anderson City Council Forum, starting at 6 p.m. at the VFW Hall in Anderson. Thursday is Shasta Lake City, Friday District 1 Supervisor, and Saturday is California Propositions Pros and Cons. Check out the League of Women Voters Reading area for locations and times. Thank you for being an informed citizen. Your involvement is crucial for our democracy. Vote.
So we're going to begin with candidate opening statements, and we're going to go alphabetically from A to B, and then with closing statements from B to A. So we are going to start. The opening statements are 2 minutes long, and we will start with Miss Tenessa Audette.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thanks to all you candidates for being here. This is Democracy in Action. So a little bit about myself. I moved here 9 years ago with my 3 beautiful kids and my husband. If you want to know why we moved here for our kids. They were growing up in LA and it was not the atmosphere that we wanted for them. And so we wanted to move to a place that was safe and that was community centered. And Reading has been that and a lot more. For the last 9 years, I have been working here in Reading in politics. My background is my degrees in political science. I worked in marketing and business. And then when I went home to be with my kids, I started in the nonprofit world. So having private sector, nonprofit sector, and now public sector, I work for our state senator, Brian Daly. I'm a district representative. And what that means for us here in Reading is that if anybody has a problem in all of District 1 with the state of California, which I'm sure you've never heard of, they call our offices and we help them. Just this last week, I had a gentleman show up at the office, the DMV, he failed his driving test. He didn't think that that was fair. The DMV was not giving him a good answer as to when he could take his test again and if there was a senior test that he could take. And we were able to address that issue and within a day get his registration cleared up And he was relieved that the actual representative, the government, was working for him, and that's really what I want to do for you. On the city council, we are your elected representatives, and if you have any issue with the city or a department, you can come to us and we will help advocate for the issue that you have and help you to resolve it, or help it to never happen again. And so, my name is Shasta. I'll be answering lots of questions, and I hope that you will go to my website, which is votetenessa.com, to find out some more. I do events every Tuesday. I'd love to answer your questions, especially if they don't get answered tonight. I'll make myself available. Thanks.
Thank you, Tenessa. Mr. James Crockett.
Hello. It's my second time up here. Pleasure to be running again to represent the constituents in Redding, California. My name is James Crockett. I'm a teacher out at Shasta College. I teach government, economics, and math. And I'm running, I've watched city council meetings now for since 2016. I've been to every single one in person or online, of course, when COVID happened. And I'm running mainly because I feel like there's decisions that are being made that don't necessarily represent the good of everyone involved in the city. And what I mean by that is some things are specifically good maybe for one person or a group of people. And I feel like those people often will come down and be very vocal. And there's decisions made upon that vocal minority, and sometimes the bigger picture isn't taken into account. And so it's caused me a little bit of frustration, and I wanted to try to bear in mind that there's some competing interests, whether it's homelessness or whatever it might be with business or short-term rentals, and try to make sure that not necessarily the loudest are heard, but the majority and what they want is going to be what's acted on. So you can learn more about me at Crockett for Council on Facebook, and of course, if there's anything that you want to reach out to personally, I can be found at jamesacrockett@gmail.com. And there's articles out there and whatnot, so a lot of my statements and my opinions on certain things are out there if you'd like to know more about me. But I definitely want to work together with what we've already built and encourage more economic growth, more risk-taking, more coming together as a community to resolve some of the problems, and not always letting the loudest, most boisterous voices be heard, or the power brokers say be heard the loudest. Thank you.
We're going to readjust over there, but we're going to skip Mr. Michael Dacquisto for the end since he is absent, and we'll start with Mr. Ian Hill.
Just do it this way. Alright, so hi everyone, my name is Ian Hill. I grew up here and have an education in earth sciences, communication, and criminal justice, and along with a deep interest in city planning, design, and development, as well as architecture. I've been a public servant for a while now, both at the city and county level, and take satisfaction in the work public service can provide for residents. And I want to keep moving forward with that. Whatever the problem, my door is open, and will use my platform to elevate issues and concerns by shining the spotlight on them and directing resources and personnel towards them. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua Johnson. Thank you.
Good evening. Just really inspired by everybody who's here. Just shows that you're really engaged in this process, and that's really great because that's what we need in government is a relationship that's collaborative between the people and the government. I'm Joshua Johnson. I'm a local business owner. I'm a builder, and I'm a father of 4 beautiful daughters with my wife of 18 years, Rebecca, who's right over here. And I know what it takes to and know what it's like to take risks and bet on a city to become the best version of itself. I spent 6 years helping launch our Startup Redding community, which comes alongside helping develop the ideas of local entrepreneurs and connect them to a supportive ecosystem. And I believe we are so close to experiencing some of our best days as a city, and that's why I'm running for city council. We need government to continue to come and work toward the issues and challenges of homelessness, fire preparedness, and the rising cost of housing, while also coming alongside those efforts in our community that are attempting to dream and execute and grow our economy. I want to bring with me to City Council a spirit of collaboration. I want to help generate more ideas than complaints. I want to do everything in my power to making government more accessible and creative, especially at the local level. And I want to ask tough questions on the dais while also doing the hard work to finding great solutions. And I think that's what leadership looks like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Jack Leroy Munns II.
My name is Jack Munns. I appreciate you having me today. I was born and raised in Redding, California. Graduated from Enterprise High School. Are there any Hornets up here? All right, well, awesome. And about 1981, I moved to Reno, and I worked in the casino industry for about 7-8 years. And I was on the police department, retired as a sergeant after 21 years. During my time there, while serving a search warrant, I fell off the balcony and broke both of my heels. And during that time, I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice, my master's degree in social work, and started a nonprofit. And I ended up going to Africa about 10 times. I started an orphanage over there and a school for the kids over there, which was quite enjoyable, quite fun. I'm running for city council because the two things that are degrading our community are homelessness and crime. Two things I know a whole lot about. I was a cop, I know the laws, and one of the issues that I'm sure we'll talk about later is crime, and I have a vast experience. I ran a homeless program in Reno. We won national awards. You can go to jackmunns.com to read about that. So I plan on bringing my vast experience to this community. And one of my mantras is you have to get out among the people to solve the issues. You can't solve them from the office. I'm retired. I'll be available as much as I need. Here to answer questions. So I just invite you to vote for me. I'd appreciate it. You go to jackmunns.com to learn more. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Marcus K. Partin.
Thank you. I don't know why the middle initial ended up there, but it's okay. My name is Marcus Partin. I moved here about 21 years ago with my wife because we loved Redding. We made the decision to come up here because we wanted to live here and enjoy the community. We've become part of the community while we've been up here, both with local involvement and with civic involvement. From a business standpoint, I've owned businesses for the last 40 years. 20 here in Redding, and that has given me some background, primarily focused in real estate. Part of those real estate holdings have taken acquisitions all the way through the entitlement process, which takes years. So a firm knowledge of that, contract knowledge, background, due diligence, and acquisition training, along with proper disclosure. So I'm thinking that the background in real estate may be of help with what we've gone through recently. Civically, I've been involved with 3 board appointments, the best known of which would be probably the Redding Electric Utility Commission. I was a commissioner, a vice chairman of that commission, along with 2 other appointments over the last decade. So it's my hope that that background that I can bring to the council will help. I decided to run for council because I think I can make a difference. Having seen the process, having been involved in evaluating different aspects of it, not just going to meetings, but being part of the process of those meetings, I think would be helpful. The focus is economic development from my standpoint and how we get there. And that intertwines with both how we deal with the crime issue and how we deal with housing. And we'll be talking about that throughout the campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Alex Shea.
Thanks, guys. Alex Shea here. I was born and raised in New York, but once you meet a California girl, there's magnetism that bring her back. My wife is sitting right there in the front row, in the yellow. I'm just going to embarrass you, honey, really quickly. I love you. I believe in a Reading that has untapped potential. That's where you may see some of my signs, unlocking Reading's potential. I think we make great strides. I don't think we're the best version of ourselves. And let me tell you a little bit about myself and how that lends well to that vision. Born and raised in New York, like I said, I got a finance degree from NYU and graduated into a fantastic economy in 2008. So my first job out of college was moving to DC and working for the U.S. Treasury Department, regulating mortgages. That was quite fun, but that's another story for another time. I went back to New York and worked on Wall Street for about 7 years. So there's a common theme here, guys. Finance, budgets, multi-billion-dollar portfolios. That was my background. Having a comfort with knowing budgets from the top down. I believe numbers tell a story, and they can also tell a story on your behalf, so know how to suss out the difference. My wife and I moved out here because we wanted to, like I said before, be closer to family. My 2 girls are out here now. They're both born in Mercy. I have a 4-year-old, and I have an 11-month-old tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got an 11-month-old tomorrow, and it's been a wild ride, but it's because of them that I want to run. I want to make this city a better place for them. I want to give them an opportunity to at least give Reading a fighting chance for them to stick around for job opportunities. My main MO is economic prosperity, economic growth through thoughtful development while maintaining our rural heritage. It's a mouthful, but it's very important for you guys to be cognizant of. I love Reading. I love the outdoors. And I want more people to appreciate it, and then us to appreciate Reading itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. We're going to pass Ms. Jordan Valenzuela, and we're going to introduce Ms. Kimberly Vollmers.
Good evening. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. As he said, my name is Kimberly Vollmers, and I was raised here in Reading. I also was a Partin. And my husband and I are raising 4 daughters here, so I'm going to ask for your positive vibes, your prayers, and your parental advice to be dropped in the box at my table in the back before you leave. Use those cards for that, please. Good wisdom in this room. I'm running for office, for city council, because of the same reasons that I vote, the same reasons that I've lobbied in Sacramento, and the same reasons why I educate others of why their vote matters, is that local government affects our lives every single day. In the things that we do in parks, in the ways that we're protected from public safety, and the entire infrastructure that manages the things around us, like homelessness, economic development, and a lot of things that you've heard mentioned already, so I won't repeat a lot of those things. So I feel like our city and our people deserve managing that is personal, managing that is understood, that we care, and that we're listening every single time something matters to you. So I believe in customer service. I worked a lot of different jobs in my life that make customer service number 1. And so I have the time, I have the compassion, and I have the commitment to represent the people of Reading. So thank you so much for being here tonight, and I will see you all around.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Dr. Dacquisto is absent tonight, but he has submitted an opening statement that Ms. MacArthur will read.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. Unfortunately, a prior commitment prevented me from attending tonight. I love this city, and I'm asking for your vote to re-elect me to the City Council. During the past 4 years, the Council has 1, increased police funding and staffing to a higher level than it was in 2008 when the layoffs began. 2, fenced, cleaned up, and made York Pond open space a city park. 3, assign new police officers to open and close their pond and to prevent the criminals and vagrants from overnight camping there. 4, assign 2 police officers with 2 mental health workers to a crisis intervention response team to handle calls received that need mental health services instead of arrest and detention. 5, sold or put in escrow 16 of 18 lots at Stillwater Business Park, which should generate some large employment opportunities. Work still remains, including cooperating with the county and building a new jail, tackling the ever-growing unfunded post-employment pension and health care obligations, When you pick your favorite candidate, remember his or her position on these issues and others. For example, 3 of the candidates, Joshua Johnson, Alex Shea, and Tenessa Audette, have publicly supported sale or lease of the convention center and rodeo grounds to the McConnell, K2, and Populous Consortium. Councilwoman Julie Winter favors this sale or lease. Election of 2 or 3 of the candidates who support this sale would create a majority of 3 on the council, and the sale could go forward. Under state law, a sale or lease would require low-income housing being built in that area. I adamantly oppose housing of any type in that area. If this issue is important to you, please find out your candidate's position on it before you vote.
I would like to make note that Michael Dacquisto's statement was timed as well, and those were Michael Dacquisto's words. So without further ado, we're going to keep this train running, and thank you, Missy, for reading that statement. We're going to continue with the program and go with our regular questions, which are going to be timed for 1 minute, and we are staggering this. And so we did a readjustment. I want to point out our 2 League of Women Voters timers and flag. Waivers up there. So they have readjusted. So once again, thank you to the candidates, and we will start this. So our first question for the candidates, and these were submitted by the audience, is what experience or training has prepared you for a position on the Reading City Council? And we are going to start with Mr. Ian Hill.
Okay. All right. So my experience. Yeah, I don't think that's coming up. So my experience, I worked at a city level when I lived in Santa Cruz for a while. I did Parks and Rec and helped with events, sports leagues, anything the public sort of came into and had questions for. I was able to at least direct them, if not help them outright. And currently I work for the county. I work for the county clerk, so I help with marriage licenses, passports, and things like that. And then for government experience as well, in college and other areas, I was often on student governance boards, student union boards, things like that, networking and talking with people to understand what the problems were and present them to the relevant people. And so that way I feel I'm a good communicator between disparate parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Joshua Johnson, same question.
Currently I am actively building homes in our city and doing projects that require me to work closely with our permit center and staff and I get to feel some of the bottlenecks that many have felt in our city when it comes to our permit center and getting plans approved and projects approved, and many people are feeling that pinch in a variety of ways, our small business owners that are trying to move forward. It's very difficult to build and create more housing and develop projects in the state of California as it is. And so I think my experience in being on this side of the table will lend itself very well to understanding the needs of our people and coming alongside them and trying to find ways to make things smoother for the better of our economy and in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Munns, same question.
Well, I believe my experience as a police officer and my experience as a social worker will lend a great deal to the community and to the 2 things that plague us most: crime, which has brought about a lot in terms of the broken window theory, if you all remember that. When things begin to break down, light comes in, nefarious things start to happen, and you need to be able to address those things. And you address those things by having a police force that gets out of their car and works towards those issues. The challenge is we don't have enough cops to do that. I realize that we're going to be at about 120 here for the next 6 months, which is more cops than we've ever had. So I'm thankful for that, but we need more. I also ran a homeless program that you can read about, where I have vast experience of 5 years, day in, day out, working with the homeless, working with the parents and the children to prevent child abuse and neglect.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Marcus Partin, same question.
business standpoint, the background in real estate and the real estate transactions we have will be a tremendous asset. We, with the city, there is a lot of real estate transactions that go on. I've done over 250 million of securitized real estate transactions, and so from that standpoint, you know what to look for and contract law as it comes into play. From the standpoint of community service and the Electric Utility Commission, spending time there, learning about all aspects of the business, the regulation, the pending regulation coming in, and potential regulation, all had to be planned for. And interesting on how that business runs as a separate business within our city, $150 million business. My other work as two other board appointments, learning how to evaluate nonprofit organizations as to what they bring, bang for the buck, the return on investment on their services to the community.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Shea, same question.
Thank you, Mike. I'm the money guy. Simply put, if you want to roll out a homelessness program, or if you want to add more cops, where are you taking money from? I'm the guy that balances the budgets. And simply put, I have the financial wherewithal to execute and implement that. Studied finance in college, second best program in the country. Currently, I'm VP of Finance for a real estate lending company. We manage a private portfolio. We've deployed $6 million of our own capital to Reading. I take tremendous satisfaction in knowing that my day-to-day work benefits the city and the community that I live in. Obviously, I mentioned before the Treasury experience, working with budgets, and on Wall Street, working with large companies and multi-billion-dollar portfolios. So again, money, managing comfort. And locally, I'm currently the vice chair of the Community Development Advisory Committee, volunteered as a budget committee member at Reading School of the Arts, and through a local nonprofit, rolled out $1 million in relief funds for victims of the car fire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Ms. Vollmers, same question.
I feel weird sitting down, sorry. Such a large crowd to sit down and speak to. So what qualifies me, there's so many things that I could say about this because I feel like many people in this room are qualified by what you carry, what you care about, and who you are every day of your life. So in my opinion, government is not supposed to be those people who run it and those people who are governed by it. But I live here, and my husband works here, and we raise our family here. And I have a background in medical background in pharmacy, and when I did that, it was something important to me because it was life and death to pay attention to detail and have a mind and a wherewithal and foresight for excellence. Because the things that you do and the choices that you make have time that it takes to where you're making an impact on that person's life in every encounter. And so, I feel like the way that I would want to be as a representative for the city is someone who listens and someone who shares.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Ms. Audette, same question.
All right, the ladies are standing. Okay, so I think that when it comes to experience, obviously I work for our state senate, I'm working in the public sector, so I work for our state senator, I have a degree in political science, and all of that is great. It's really what you do with it, and for me, I feel like it gives me a confidence to know what government does really, really well. And so I'm not afraid to make sure that we're doing the things that we're supposed to do to the caliber that we're supposed to do them. And then having worked in the private sector and in the nonprofit, I know what they're looking for. I know how they want to get a win as well. And so it's really, to me, about the value of collaboration and being able to bring all these people to the table, understanding what they do best, and plugging holes. You know, the government can only do so much, but where we lack, we can pull in our partners from all over the community, things that you're a part of, things that I'm a part of, to bring them together to actually solve issues. So I would say that's where my experience and my values lie. They lie in collaboration and working together, and every benefit to yours.
Thank you, Ms. Audette. Mr. Crockett, same question.
I'd say what qualifies me to run for city council is I've been listening. I've been listening a long time. I could talk to you about issues over the last 6-7 years that I'm guessing most of these candidates haven't heard about, including Mr. Dacquisto. I've gone to more, I can definitively say I've gone to more, attended more city council meetings than him even. He goes on quite a few vacations, although he does usually phone in. But beyond that, I've attended all sorts of different government meetings, whether it's the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, whether it's the local one at the Shasta College or the Shasta Union High School District. I've just been very involved in government, and one of the things I just constantly look for is I look for the little things that people don't necessarily see and little changes that can be made. And so I kind of accumulated this net worth of knowledge, and I want to put it to action. And I have done representation. I represented the 400 plus part-time faculty at Shasta College in multiple capacities for 5 or 6 years there. So yeah, I think those all give me a good background to be a strong candidate for City Council.
The next question is about development. What are your ideas for the civic, rodeo grounds, and park marina areas?
Thank you. And we are going to start that with Mr. Marcus Partin.
You know, when I look at the proposals for the rodeo grounds, you have to look at highest and best uses of theory of real estate. And having the thought of losing control of that incredible asset within our city bothers me. I wasn't behind or for the proposed sale because we would lose control of the property. And yet I think with that asset, there's other alternatives out there. We have to maintain our heritage that we have, and so the rodeo grounds is a part of that. But what we can do in the future with that property that's currently under evaluation should be controlled by the city.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Alex Shea.
Our riverfront property is our crown jewel, and I think it would be a draw, not just for our local citizens to enjoy, but for tourism and for attracting and maintaining talent. When I say talent, I don't mean just you and me. I'm talking about our kids and our grandkids. That would be a draw in and of itself. And when I looked at the proposal in January, I simply said, hey, you know what? Let's explore this further. Let's not commit to anything. Let's just ask questions. I'm a data-oriented guy, and I'm always thinking, are we getting the most amount of information about this transaction? I'm certainly not committing to anything where the city is ceding control, or if this is the best use or the highest use. We didn't have enough information, and we said no. So simply, I'm thinking, let's explore that, because I think Reading needs to utilize and maximize its crown jewel asset for our kids and grandkids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Ms. Vollmers, same question.
I would like to see the area be used for something that serves us the best ways for the longest ways. I do not hold a strong opinion of whether or not it's sold at this time or it's kept in ownership of the city, and I think that as long as whatever is decided, there's community involvement and it's not done with haste.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Ms. Audette, same question.
Thanks. Okay, so for the rodeo and civic auditorium grounds, I was very excited to see somebody dreaming about what could happen with that place. Since I've lived here, we've been talking every campaign. I hear people talking about Park Marina and developing it. So I was excited to see that there was some type of dreaming and thinking about what that could actually be. So I was disappointed. I didn't support the sale or the lease. What I supported was actually going through the surplus property process to figure out if that's what we actually wanted to do. And that was the next phase of that. The Surplus Property Act is very confusing, so we've swung at that twice and missed both times here in Reading. But I do think that we need to be dreaming. We need partners that want to dream how to make that more accessible to people. I want to be down there with my family, but I don't always feel like it's safe. So if it's a place where there's more people can be there and we can all go down there more often, that's a win for me and my family.
Thank you, Ms. Audette. Mr. Crockett, same question.
So a little bit of history, I was there when the presentation was made. The corporation that wanted to do something here does not deal in small city venues. The Field of Dreams, it was nationally televised. If you watch baseball, they did that. They've redone stuff in San Francisco. The guy could teleconference in from France. The only reason we were even in the ballpark for this kind of deal was because the person that organizes this stuff is actually a Reading native, and he wanted to bring something back to Reading. So with that context, if you had $10,000 sitting in your hand, and I said, I'll trade you a car for that, what's the first question you're gonna ask me? Well, what kind of car is it? You're not gonna say, this is my money, forget you. You're gonna find out what kind of car it is. I wanna find out what kind of car it is. However, I am against outright selling the property. I would not agree with that. I would be looking at something like a 50-year lease, and then if things are not going the way we would like them to be, we would get that property back.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Mr. Hill, same question.
So, knowing the history of several cities, once you lose a green space in the heart of the city, it's almost impossible to get it back. So I would actually be much more in favor of not development, but redevelopment of the areas that we already have developed on, like the rodeo grounds themselves and such, and preserving that green space for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Johnson, same question.
Okay, so if you sell your couch on Facebook Marketplace, you lose control. If the city sells a piece of property that requires a master plan, the city never loses control. The city has absolute control. I'm a little bit surprised that another developer up here lost sight of what a development agreement is. The city actually tells a developer what can and cannot be built there. It's a collaboration that takes oftentimes years to work out that is for the betterment of our city. What I was for is getting the state of California off our back so that we can actually explore that as a community. Not deciding who or what to sell it to, but for us to collaborate and to design it together. So I think that's what's really important. The city would not lose control.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Munns, same question.
Well, I am not in favor of selling. Growing up here, I used to go with my mom every May, when the Asphalt Cowboys would have a thing. We could eat sausage and pancakes, and I have very fond memories of those weeks, the rodeos, and all that goes on there. And I would like to, some traditions are worth keeping. I get, the dreaming part. I love to dream. But that part, but also, I'm told that the first people, if we sell it, the first people that will get to bid on it are low-income housing. And I'm not sure that we want low-income housing in that area. So I vote right now to keep it as it is.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Our next question is on the homeless situation. How do you think you could improve the city's approach to the homeless situation? And we're going to start with Ms. Vollmers on this question.
I think supporting the entities that right now help the homeless with affordable housing, and I know that the city has been working on trying to have a comprehensive list and maybe streamlining the process so that when people encounter someone who is unhomed or unhoused, or whether it be temporary or if it's been a long time, some people we can see and they feel like a mascot to the area because they've been there for so long. I think that if we have better streamlined processes for those people to be helped, whether it be if I encounter someone or a business does, it would be through support through the police officers and the teams that go out and encounter them to get them connected to services. We need to continue to always allocate funding for that because that's the only way we're ever going to see change.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Ms. Audette, same question.
Yeah, so on this issue, I've been going out with fire department, with our crisis intervention response team to actually see what the homeless situation is for myself, get out there, find out what they think are the solutions, and the reason why offering a home to them, a shelter, the rescue mission, whatever it is, to get some shelter has been because that's what law enforcement says would help. When someone's ready to go into placement to get some help, they need to have a place to take them. So I do think that having housing, having hotels, I've gone and looked at the hotels at Bridgeport that the city are paying for. They're being renovated. They're putting them up to a good condition. The operator of it is doing a wonderful job of transitioning people, especially from Nurpon, into that place. So I do think that we're taking the right steps. having done a ride-along with the crisis intervention response team, I'd say that's the way of the future. If we can add another team, I think it'll go a long way to taking our high offenders, those that are constantly a drain on the system, but that want to actually get help with that contact that they're making. That would make a big difference.
Thank you, Ms. Audette. Mr. Crockett, same question.
I'm going to steal a line from Mr. Dacquisto here. He always says homelessness is a community problem and requires a community solution, and I agree 100%. The City Council is doing a lot in regards to homelessness with lots of different angles trying to resolve a multifaceted problem. I would encourage you to go look at the last City Council meeting. They did a great overview of what the city is doing. My concern is that we need community, we need you guys. The homeless problem is not going to be solved by government. It just won't be. We shouldn't be the ones doing that. The problem I have is when there's a church or someone else that comes up with a solution, like housing solutions, short-term housing, mobile showering, it gets shot down at City Council or it's very debated. If I'm looking at putting my blood, sweat, and tears into helping the homeless and the City Council is going to shut me down, I might think twice about it. We're sending the wrong tone to the community. It's not just a City Council responsibility, it is a community responsibility. And until we all get skin in the game, it will not go away. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Mr. Hill, same question.
First, we just need to have a place where homeless people can just exist. They are often sort of shepherded around and they can't ever establish themselves. And so if we have a place we can provide housing, or at least a place they can just be, it's a lot easier to provide any of these services we want to give to help them to reach not being homeless or just getting them back on their feet. And there also has to be more tailored programs. Just because one person is homeless, the other person isn't necessarily homeless for the same reasons. So we can't have just a one program fitting all homeless people. It needs to be more tailored. And so I really do like the crisis intervention team. I think that's been very successful so far, and I would also like to see that increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Johnson, same question.
Yeah, I also am very much in favor of seeing an increase in our crisis intervention team. I've spent some time with them. While I was with them, there was a woman who was 7 months pregnant who came up to the tent looking for services, looking for help. They found out that she would qualify for one of the programs that are partnered with the crisis intervention team. She agreed that she would, she did say that she was hooked on meth and she had a number of other things that were issues, but that the program director decided to come down and meet her to take her to this program that she had agreed to do, and then she had vanished. And I think that it's kind of the experience oftentimes of our crisis intervention team, and I would like to see us as a community try and approach that problem as well as government. It's very challenging, and oftentimes the police are handcuffed, and we need to come alongside and support the
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
in their progress towards the new June.
Mr. Munns, same question.
Thank you. The driving engine to help solve this issue is affordable housing. You know, in the Nurpon issue, there was 60 tents down there, and the exciting part is 11 of those homeless people volunteered to go in the program. That is, you know, we don't think 11 people is a big deal, but 11 people went into the program, and they're still in the program, whatever it is, 4 or 5 weeks later. That's a start. It's a good start. I ran a homeless program in Reno, and we took services to the people. We didn't have you come to us, we went to you. And what we did is we started out slow. I had a community health nurse, her and I went, and we went for 5 years, pretty much almost every day. We ended up having about a staff of 15 with me. We took a 53-foot trailer. We did all kinds of checkups, to get them the services they need. They would come to us, we would teach them how to access the services and how to make life better for themselves and for their families.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Partin, same question.
There's really two aspects of the homeless things that I think we have to address. You know, one is the illegal encampments that cause property damage on an ongoing basis. We saw this with your pond. Once it closed up, the neighbors around it were ecstatic because they could finally sleep at night, but the neighbors in the surrounding areas are now bothered by the constant flow of transients in the area. And even though they were given notice and outreach at Nurpon, there was 100 tons of garbage left behind that we had to pay for removal. And so we have to supply housing. Where that housing is going to be, it needs to be studied, because we can't put ourselves in a position like Chico that gets sued for not having available housing. So we need to address the housing aspect. But those that don't want housing or the illegal encampments, that's a different situation. We have to protect property rights as well.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Shea, same question.
There's a long-term solution and there's a short-term solution. The long-term solution is we need economic vitality. The short-term solution, we need to view the homeless situation and segment it like a new business opportunity. Talking to boots on the ground, we can segment into 3 large groups. Number 1, folks that can benefit from going back to jail, because not every homeless person is a criminal, but a third of them have committed crimes. They could benefit from the jail space with attached rehabilitation services. Number 2, you have the second and third that have mental health issues. Addressing that is not the same way you would address the first third. And the final third is addressing folks that actually fell on hard times. Maybe a single parent that got kicked out of their house because of domestic abuse or violence, they lost a job. Different approaches to each one of those segments. And so with that said, centralized database to actually track every single person. The Good News Rescue Mission is actively doing that right now, partnering with that. And I just talked to the chief yesterday, and he said, if you can open up 100 short-term beds for me, I can clean up the streets overnight.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. So we'll have our 4th question presented by Ms. MacArthur.
If you were given unlimited funds in the city budget, what would be your top priorities?
And we're going to start that question with Mr. Crockett.
So can you restate the question? If I was in charge of the budget, or if we had extra money in the budget? I wasn't sure which the question was.
If you had unlimited funds in the city budget, what would be your top priorities?
That doesn't feel like a very practical question, because there's always limits to a budget. But if you had unlimited funds, I would do anything and everything to bring businesses in here, because if you study history, having unlimited funds up here, the Spanish Empire did not do a lot for you. They were bankrupt and poor, and it was a very big problem for them. What you need is something that's going to sustain your community long term. So incentivizing businesses to come here. Things like homelessness would obviously be easily cured if we had an unlimited budget. But what happens over time if we don't create some sort of job for these people to have? So just doing anything we can to bring more businesses in. And as an economist, I can tell you, the more economic vitality, the less you're going to have crime, the less you're going to have homelessness. Costs $90,000 to lock someone up. Costs about $30,000 if they're homeless. And if you give them back to paying taxes, obviously that's what you want to do. So any system with the money we had to build, systems internally to not be reliant on unlimited funds.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Mr. Hill, same question.
My top priority would be housing, for sure, to make housing available for anyone, because the continuum of housing here in the city and just across the U.S. is broken. So reorienting and rectifying that would be my top priority. But also then making the city more walkable, sort of infrastructure and transport. Both makes the city much better. Walkability also decreases crime. And then on top of that, having that infrastructure, both physical and technological, brings business. If we don't have that, businesses don't really want to set up here. So if we want to attract other types of business, we sort of have to set the bed for them first before they would come here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Johnson, same question.
Government's top 2 jobs is to provide infrastructure and public safety. After we provide for the adequate infrastructure and public safety for our community looking into the future, and we had unlimited funds, I would ask myself, why do we have unlimited funds? And I would give it back to you. Because those funds come from you, the people. So I really think government needs, after providing infrastructure and public safety, to come alongside and champion those that are actually taking risks in our city, and to support those efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Munns, same question.
Well, at unlimited funds, that would be awesome. First of all, though, I would do affordable housing. Affordable housing will drive the solutions, part of the solutions that we want for this city. We want to curb homelessness. I'd get a whole slew of counselors. We have mental health issues, we have addiction issues we need to address. I would give a lot of it back to the local businesses. Coming out of the pandemic, we've kind of not really been supportive of our local business. I would give a lot of them to help them begin to thrive again, begin new businesses to help them get situated and settled in our community, and then have our community be a place that people want to come and raise their children and retire and have a great life.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Partin, same question.
I focus on one thing, crime. A short-term solution, an interim solution, and a long-term solution. The jail is planned, because I think that if we had that done, the rest would come in. The economic business would come in. We could attract the professionals, medical and otherwise, that we need in this area to come into the area. But it's crime. And it's the crime statistics that have caused a problem in this area. The rest will fix itself. There's a lot of empty space here. There's room for business growth. People realize that they can work from home. Employers realize that they can work from away from the office, that are going to drive people up to this marketplace. Solve the crime problem, and we'll solve a lot of our problems. I would put our money against crime.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Shea, same question.
It's a great question. It's kind of like if the genie gave you 3 wishes, we can't wish for unlimited wishes. So let me just redact that slightly. So what if we got a large endowment, a large amount of money? And what would I do? Long-term, short-term. Long-term, I want us to be self-sustainable. We are a net taker at the county level of funds from Sacramento. What if I told you we don't have to be? We could be self-sustainable through industry or through building up our own investments infrastructure. So long-term, I would look to actually set up our own endowment, and so that we can actually pay for ourselves and not be reliant on anybody else. That's number one. Short-term, infrastructure, very important. Our grades for our roads, airports, and other infrastructure, we have 62 square miles of city sprawl, to cover. That's a lot. That's double Chico. We have a little less than Chico's population. I would love to tackle that and boost that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Ms. Vollmers, same question.
You know how when you have a lot of money, you can never find what you want? I feel like Joshua said, if we had a surplus money to that extent, that would make me feel like we're on the wrong track, for sure. But I would want to see us help with the county to have jail space, because we use a lot of it in terms of what the county provides. We aren't necessarily responsible for funding that. So I would want to see some of that money allocated for jail space. And definitely economic development, because that's how we bring in tax money and we facilitate all the rest of the things that we provide for everyone who lives here. And the last one that I noted down with the question is affordable housing. Because if people don't have somewhere to move up and people don't have somewhere to move in, we become stagnant. And I don't want to see that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Ms. Audette, same question.
This is a trick question, because money does not solve everything. So I do think that I take your pick, they're all really good answers. I think economic development, jail space, infrastructure, safety, those are all really important, and they're the things that we say right now that we need to solve some of the issues that we're having and the bottlenecks that we have. But I think at the end of the day, there's a reason why Redding is the most prosperous city in all of California in the middle of what could be uncertain economic times during a pandemic. It's because the people here are resilient, and we've learned over the last decade that you don't need money to be successful. And so while I would love a slush fund to be able to do things, I don't actually think that's what we need.
Thank you, Ms. Audette. With time permitted, since we made great time, thank you to the candidates and thank you to the audience. We do have one final question before we move over to closing statements. And so we'll go back with the same order. So our final question is on transportation. Do you support active transportation in the city? Specifically, will you continue to support building of bike facilities within the city, such as bike lanes? And we're going to start how we did in the very beginning with Mr. Hill. And I can repeat the question.
Yes, I very much support transportation, buses, bikes, walking paths, anything like that. I've lived in a city where walkability was, I was able to walk everywhere, sorry. And it was great. And also from both the criminal justice side and then also learning from city development, crime goes down, economic vitality goes up when you have things not just based on one mode of transportation, in this instance cars. You have this synergy of all these places, and it's really nice to be in that type of town and city, and I would love to see some of that come to Reading. We've had some of it start to come, but I would love to see even more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Johnson, the same question.
Yes, I absolutely am in favor of continue to improve and add more bikes and walkways. It's so important to a city plan to have both. We can't just be designed around a vehicle. In order for us to thrive and for us to enjoy and actually enjoy our weekends here, we need to enjoy the outdoors. And so the city can provide partnership. It has the land, and it also can partner with community organizations to build beautiful trails and bike trails and walking trails like it already is, but I think we can continue to do that. Why not become one of the most walkable cities in California? I think it's possible.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Munns, same question.
Yeah, I definitely support bikes. I think people should ride their bikes more often. I don't see a whole lot of bike riding. One of the challenges I had with the last that they built down and they closed off, I think it's Riverside Drive, was I was told it cost $5 million. And that's quite expensive. I don't how much building costs, but it seemed expensive to me. But I'm definitely for bike ride. I'm definitely for those things. It brings a lot of good things to our community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Partin, same question.
Being both a runner and a bicycle rider, I love the trails here, and out on and off. It is a true asset of the community, and it draws people, visitors and potential residents alike to our community. I don't like seeing empty buses, but I think as long as the transportation is safe and is shown to be safe and we promote that, it can help make our city downtown thrive. So I'm supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Partin. Mr. Shea, same question.
Yes, but. And I'll tell you guys a story. When my wife and I lived in New York City, Times Square had Broadway running right through it. And then a certain administration decided, let's shut it off. Not just for cyclists, but from all traffic. And the unintended consequence that resulted was traffic on 5th Avenue and 7th Avenue and 6th Avenue, the ones that are adjacent to it. See, every time that the government comes in and rolls out big projects that are for big grant dollars, there's almost always unintended consequences. And so, yes, I am supportive of bikes. I love mountain biking myself. But I would make sure, very sure, that one, we have the maintenance dollars required to maintain the facility. And number two, what are the unintended consequences, for example, traffic flow? Or, do you like having so many one-way streets downtown? I know I don't. I don't know if you guys do. But there could be unintended consequences that we need to explore. So we need to be thoughtful about this. But yes, I am in support. But, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Ms. Vollmers, same question.
Yes, I would absolutely love to see more transportation on foot and biking. In 2010, when I moved back to Reading, my husband bought me a beach cruiser, because they're cute. And we got on our bikes and we went on the trail that goes along Sacramento River. We lived over by Winco and Home Depot in an apartment townhouse. And we took our bikes, went over to Movies 8, went to the movies, and when we came out, my bike was stolen. And so, to me, it goes hand in hand of things, more population in those modes of transportation, I think would be awesome, because the top 3 people who visit our city are from San Francisco, Sacramento, and San Diego. So those modes of transportation are popular there. When they come here, they're coming for the outdoors. So I would love to see it amplified for the people who live here and the people who visit.
Thank you, Ms. Vollmers. Ms. Audette, same question.
Yes, I love bike lanes. They're fantastic. So one of the things that you may or may not know is that a lot of the grants that we've been able to acquire downtown have happened because we are creating bike accessible lanes throughout downtown. And with the new Market Street apartments and the Block 7 that's coming along, I think having the new bike depot is we're going to see the effects of that. And to Alex's point, of course, there's always going to be some unintended consequences, but anytime that you increase transportation, I think what's even more incredible is that we're linking it to the trails. And so if we want people to get out, to do something different, to really get out onto our trails and to keep our trails safe, we need people on them. And so making an easy way to go from downtown into our trail system is just a win for everybody. So I'm very much for bike lanes.
Thank you, Ms. Audette. Mr. Crockett, same question.
So I'm giving a test tomorrow in my government class, and I have some weighted decisions. Sometimes as a teacher, I get a kid with a black eye, and I harass them about starting his flashcards, right in the middle of the space, kids wearing the same clothes for 3 days. Where does this tie into the bus thing? I'm all for the biking thing, but when I hear public transit, I hear busing. Busing is really important to the students I teach. A lot of them wouldn't be there. And Ian mentioned statistics. The statistics are per dollar spent on taxpayer money. Public transit is one of the most cost-effective. You want to talk about homelessness and getting out of homelessness? People need a ride. If they can't buy a car, they can get on Raba. So anything we can do to support public transit is actually supporting economic growth as a whole in the city. And happiness measurements and stuff like that. Public transportation is huge. And you might not use the Raba. I used it. I had a car break down, couldn't fix it right. I had to take, asked friends for a while and they got tired, right? So I had to take the Raba a few times. But it's a great service. It's a help to the people that need it most, so we should definitely be investing.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. We're now going to be moving to the closing statements, and as I mentioned to the candidates, we'll be going from B through A. However, with Mr. Dacquisto's absent, we'll read his closing statement before we move to Ms. Vollmers.
Actually, this is not his closing statement, this is the end of his opening statement. I think he reads faster than I do because I did give him a 2-minute opportunity. So let me just finish what he was saying here. I have to find the right page in the right spot. Right. So he was talking about the civic area, saying that he opposes housing of any type in that area. This issue is important. Please find out about your candidate's position on it before you vote. Sale or lease of this property would forever change Reading. I am supporting and endorsing Marcus Partin for one of the open seats. He has the experience needed and views the world much the same way I do. Thank you for your time. Marcus and I hope to receive your vote.
Right. Thank you for that. Now we'll move on with closing statements, starting with Ms. Vollmers. And this will be time for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here. Once again, I am so passionate about government at a local level, and a state level, and federal level, because every aspect of our lives is literally nearly governed. But I do believe that we have, as citizens, an impact. Is that going in and out? It's going in and out. Can you hear me? Wait, okay. I just want you to know that I believe that my voice has not been represented many times in Reading. Voting here sometimes leaves me disenchanted for government altogether. And so I want people to feel heard, and I want people to feel understood, and I want to represent people who are my peers, which is all of you. So have a great night. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you, Mrs. Kimberly Vollmers. Mr. Alex Shea, your closing statement.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight and listening to this invigorating forum tonight. I want to leave you guys with one thought about me, if there's one takeaway. I'm the finance guy. I don't need to be your number one pick or your number two. You got to put in your top three. Because everything that the government does costs money. And if we can get that large endowment, that would change the dynamics, wouldn't solve every problem. But that's not the case. But the government runs effectively and efficiently when it's break even or a little below budget. And everything is always allocation bands. And so with my background, you can rest assured that would be the strength I'd lend not to the council, but also to City Hall, and in effect, the rest of you folks that I would be able to serve. And I want you guys to know I do this not for myself. Truly, I did it because I have 2 little girls. My wife's family has been here for 4 generations. I want to honor that legacy in terms of what the heritage that they brought, the stories that they told about Old Reading, and honor that tradition. I would want to bring transparency and accountability to our government as well, and lending that reporting standpoint. That's just what I do all day in terms of budgetary figures. So I urge you, please consider me top 3 at the very least, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. Mr. Marcus Partin, your closing statement.
Thank you very much for the opportunity tonight. We're all kind of applying for the same job here as a city council person. And, you know, when I would look to hire somebody, enthusiasm and confidence is a great quality, but I would look at their background, what they've done in the past, as an important benchmark. Veteran employer, didn't really talk about it, but spent 8 years getting an affordable housing project approved. It's just going vertical with 61 units, probably starting this month for a total of 96 units. So affordable housing is important to me. The community involvement, we didn't get into much, but one of the things I'm proudest of and a shining example is the Cole 45s. I'm a board member of Cole 45s for the last 8 years. And what we've done at South City Park shows a great deal of business cooperation with government and what we can do. I'm here to make Reading a better place, and I thought that I could make a difference in running for this office. And I'm going to use my experience in order to spend the next 4 years as a city councilman. So with your vote, I would honor your vote, and I would appreciate your support in this upcoming election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus Partin. Mr. Jack Leroy Munns, your closing statement.
Well, when I retired from the police department in 2010 and moved back home with my wife and my 2 teenage boys, I realized that Reading was not the same place I left. And my car was stolen, we had a bike that was stolen, and I thought, my car was stolen a second time, and then I realized I parked it somewhere else. That's another story. Anyway, crime is very high, homelessness is through the roof. These are the 2 areas that I have vast experience in. Part of the police department, we need to get back to what we call problem-oriented policing, where the police get out of their cars, they address issues, they know the people in their beat, and that's where real police work begins. And so my proposal is I want to add about 5 more cops per year, and to get a lot of that stuff taken care of. Homelessness, we need housing. There's a great start, as I told you earlier, with 11. We need housing, we need people to come and help. There's a lot of people out there that want help, that are afraid to ask for it. But if we could have the place for them to go, place for them to be, where they feel welcome, I want to provide that for them. But I also do not want to be a haven for the homeless. I want to help those who want help. There are some, like Mr. Shea, some that need to go to jail, and I think there are some that just need to go elsewhere. When you don't want to help yourself, and you don't want to take responsibility for yourself, there comes a time when you'll have to, and that's when we'll be able to help.
Thank you, Mr. Munns. Mr. Joshua Johnson, your closing statement.
Well, thank you all for coming here tonight and enduring this evening. I've said it before that a city doesn't arrive, it's always evolving. Every generation, every council is going to face new challenges. Sometimes there'll be carryover challenges from the previous 4 years or the previous 8 years. But we do have to recognize that our city has gone through an immense amount of growth and change just in the last 5 to 7 years. And I think it's a once-in-a-generation type of change. And I think that it's a combination of several things. We're powering back from losing 1,000 homes during the car fire. We're having a huge influx of subsidized projects like the courthouse and Market Street and others throughout our city. We are on the cusp as a community, based on what I'm hearing in the community as I'm canvassing, of seeing possible progress on our riverfront and in our time and in our day. And we are also, I think, very close. Maybe within the next few years we could see groundbreaking on a new jail in our community that could support us for the next 50 years of need. If all of the cities, including the city of Reading, decide that it's within our will and power to do it, we can do it. And I don't know about everybody else here at the table, but if after I serve on city council, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing right now, raising my 4 daughters, investing philanthropically in our community, creating jobs, and building businesses in this community. Because of all of you, I think all of the challenges we are facing are solvable one by one. And because of all of you in this room, I think we are building California's best small town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua Johnson. Mr. Ian Hill, your closing statement.
Just want to say thank you all for coming here to listen. First off, I want to emphasize that my door is open to any problem or issue. Honestly, you can come talk to me. And I want to help through public service. So you can feel free to find me afterwards, or you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at City Council Upon a Hill. And you can also see other subjects we didn't get to, like fire danger, water insecurity, and labor unions. My views on those are also up there. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Mr. Ian Hill. Mr. James Crockett, your closing statement.
Did you guys know that Reading was in a state of emergency a month ago? You know that? Same as the car fire and COVID. There's been 3 emergencies declared since I've been watching City Council. The 3rd emergency was an emergency, and unfortunately it was not declared an emergency in the next meeting because there was a few Airbnbs that were being a little bit too loud. That is what I call reactive politics. And one of the reasons I'm running is I want to be a proactive politician. If you go around the world and look at the best governments, the ones that are, have the best financial opportunity for their citizens, the ones that are thriving, it's because their politicians pursue proactive policies. So when the problem gets there, they have a solution. And then all the other governments come and say, oh, how'd you do that? Well, it's not that they had the best policy, it's that they saw the problem coming beforehand and they made adaptations. So just things like with the riverfront property. I don't know, maybe we complete that, but I want to find out because it could be next sundial on steroids. Maybe you don't remember, but the sundial was extremely controversial when it was first brought up. So there's a lot of opportunities that I feel like we squander because we're reacting to things instead of being proactive, whether it's a homeless situation. And what I do as a teacher is I try to get people pumped up and looking for solutions in their life. Basically a lot of the students that are with me, it's their last stop before they get institutionalized. And I try to teach them, hey, there's a solution just around the corner, you gotta look for it. But if you don't look for it, you're just gonna constantly be reacting to whatever is happening in your life. You gotta find it, you gotta see the problem coming and look for the solution. So it's something I feel like I'm good at, something I feel like I could offer this community, and I would really love to be someone sitting on the council representing you, finding proactive solutions before they're here, whether it's housing or homelessness or Airbnb or whatever, and make sure that we're getting on the right track and prospering as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James Crockett. This is Tenessa Audette, your closing statement.
Thank you so much for having us here tonight. So I'm thinking about what, as you're making these decisions, what makes a really good elected official. And because I love a good analogy, and I have an older daughter who watched Hunger Games and loved Kat as she changed her name to Kat, and we had to teach her archery. So I was thinking about this lesson that I had taught her as I cleaned up her bow and arrow, is that I feel like an elected official is kind of like an archer. And if you think of the bow as your government, it's a stabilizing force, it's infrastructure. And your arrows are your resources trying to hit that target. And that target could be homelessness, it could be crime, it could be the jail, it could be all of the economic development, all the things that we're talking about. But in your quiver are resources. And I think an elected official is like an archer. We're there to create tension. We're there to hold things the way they need to be pulled to actually get the trajectory to hit the target. And I want to be the one that creates that tension. I do think that we have resources, whether it's police, fire, nonprofits, private sector, all of these things available to us to solve the issues of our community. And I'll be there to create that tension, to challenge the status quo, to not take, this is a good idea, no, I want the best idea. I've gone to Chico to look at those pallet shelters to figure out what they did wrong so we don't make those mistakes here, down to looking at the actual pallets that we're thinking about buying in the city to figure out, are those the best use of our funds? Just because other cities are doing it, is it the best for us? And I think that you want that as well. You want a representative that's actually going to do the work. And so I will have office hours. I will do council walks where I go out to businesses to ask them what's working within the government and what's not. I want to work for you, so I'm asking for your vote on November 8th. You can go to my website to find out more. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ms. Tenessa Audette.
We want to thank all of the candidates and especially all the community members who've come out tonight. It really shows that you care about our community and you want to help shape its future.
I'd also like to thank the Cascade Theatre, the League of Women Voters, all of the candidates, and the Shasta County Arts Council for making this forum possible.
And Viva Downtown.
Thank you.
I did want to make one announcement. I know that you've heard me list all of the forums that are happening this week. I did want to let you know that we did reach out to Congressman Valenzuela and to Assemblywoman Dolly to see if we could do a forum with them. So far, not heard back from them. So hopefully they will respond and we will get a forum later on.
And I'd once again like to say thank you to all the candidates for participating tonight, and thank you to the audience. With 2 final notes, if you'd like to watch this, you can go to the Shasta County Arts Council YouTube page. And if you would like to meet or talk to some of the candidates, we'd love to have the candidates stay in the lobby and meet some of the people that came tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you.